everybody. With this assignment we're going to be creating something called a collograph, and then we're going to use that collograph to create a texture rubbing. A collograph is when you decide to make a picture and you use different supplies to build up layers to make that picture. So what we're going to use is a box like a cereal box. Now don't try to use a box like an Amazon shipping box. That's too thick and it's too hard to cut. You want to use some kind of like a food box that's a lot thinner and easier to cut. We're going to be cutting out shapes and layering those shapes to create a robot. And then once we create our collograph out of cardboard, we're going to take a piece of paper and we're going to rub a crayon to create a texture rubbing. And I'm going to walk you through all the steps. So the supplies that you'll need is a box like a cereal box, glue and scissors, crayons, and a white piece of paper. Gather your supplies and we'll be ready to get started. Okay, now we're going to start off with our cereal box, and we want to cut this apart or take it apart. So that's our first step. Now that I've opened up my cereal box, I've got lots of cardboard I can cut out to use. One thing that's important, if you've got a really big box like this one, you want to make sure that your cardboard piece that you cut out is about the same size as your paper. You might notice that the edges of where the folds are a little bit bigger, so I'm going to cut this down a little bit. So I'm going to be cutting this piece off and using this for my background. So I've got my paper or my background piece here. I can double check. It's about the same size. It's a little bit wider, but that's a little bit shorter. That's okay. That'll be just fine. So I'm going to use my leftover pieces that I have here for my details of my robot. So I'm going to go ahead and cut some of these folded pieces off. Okay, so now I'm going to start with my robot's head, and I could choose to make my robot's head any shape that I want. I think I'm going to make mine kind of an oval shape, so I am going to draw the shape first with my pencil. This is really up to you whether you want to draw your shapes first or if you just want to cut them out. I'm going to make mine kind of an oval shape, but I want to make sure, yeah, that that'll fit good on there. Now, here's my tip when you're cutting out things that are round. First, cut out the piece like this, okay, away from the bigger piece, because this will make it much easier to cut. Now, if you're struggling with cutting the rounded sides or shapes like circles out of your cardboard, just stick with the easier shapes of squares, rectangles, triangles, those shapes with the straight edges. They'll be a little bit easier if you're struggling with that. Okay, so there is going to be my robot's head. So now I need to decide what shape I'm going to make for its body. I think I'm going to make it a rectangle for its body. So I'm going to go ahead and come back to my big piece of cardboard here. And I'm going to use my cardboard wisely. So if I were to put my rectangle right here in the middle and then cut into my cardboard and cut around, that's kind of wasting the cardboard. So instead, I'm going to use a corner here, and I'm going to make my robot's body out of this corner. And actually, I kind of want my robot's body to be able to short and wide. My line's a little bit wobbly right there. That's okay. I'll just go back and fix it. No biggie. All right. Okay, so there's my robot's body. Okay, just like that. And we are going to come up with the arms and legs of our robot. And then I'm going to make a little piece for the neck. Now I'm going to use some of these smaller pieces. One thing to pay attention to, though, is you might notice there is glue sometimes, so you want to make sure, unless you really want that texture showing, if you use a piece that has glue on it, that when you glue it down onto here, that you put your glue on that, and it's not going to create that texture that you might feel, or you just might end up cutting that part off and not using it, which is probably what I will do. Okay, so I'm going to make the neck now of my robot. Okay, so here, that's a little bit too long, so I'm gonna trim it down and adjust it. Okay, and that's where my neck is going to go. All right, so now I'm gonna make some arms. And you can choose for your arms to be shaped any way that you would like. I'm going to make my arms be kind of like a like a shape like this. Go all the way, and I might need to trim that down a bit. I'll see once I cut it out if I need to do that. So to make it a little bit easier on myself, first I'm just going to cut out this way, and then I'll cut the rest of it out. Okay, so let me check and see how it's kind of, it fits on there. That works. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this off. Notice I haven't glued anything yet. I want to make sure everything fits the way I want it to. And I'm going to trace the shape that I had before, so that way my arms are about the same. You can do this, or you can make your two arms be different. Your robot is totally up to you. It's yours to decide what design you make for your robot. And again, I'll just trim that down as I need to. And I think this this arm is going to go down on this side, and that one will be going up like that. And I could even reverse them if I wanted to, just by flipping them over. It really doesn't matter if your like the writing of the cereal box is showing, or if the brown side is up. It doesn't matter, because this is what we're using to create our artwork. This is not our final artwork here. And now I'm ready for the legs and feet. So I think I'm just gonna cut some rectangles off for the legs. I'm gonna keep the legs kind of simple. So I'm just gonna cut 2 rectangles here. And notice I just used the pieces, and that's a little bit too long. So I'm gonna need to trim those off some. Like that. And now I'm gonna glue this all on. Now we're gonna add some details, but first I'm going to glue the main parts on. You can use white glue or you can use a glue stick. Either one will work for this project. Now it is important though that when you are gluing, that you press and hold when you're gluing. So notice, remember, we use small dots of glue spread out. We don't need tons and tons of glue. I'm gonna press down and hold. This part is really important, because if you don't if you don't do the holding part, sometimes the glue doesn't like to stay. So it's important that you hold it. So I'm gonna glue all of my pieces down, and then I'll be ready to add in details. Okay, so now that I have the main parts of my robot glued down, I'm going to go ahead and put some details on my robot, things like its face, add some details to its body. So that's my next step. Okay, so my robot is finished for now, but before I'm ready for the next step, I'm going to need to let it dry. Okay, so I'm going to give this some time to dry before I work on the next step. So let your robot dry, and we'll come back in a little while once it's dry and do our texture rubbing. Okay, now that my Collograph is dry, my robot is dry, I'm ready to create my texture rubbing. So I'm going to take a piece of paper and I'm going to place it on top of my robot, and I'm going to take a crayon that doesn't have paper on it, because we're going to use the side of the crayon. So make sure you're using a crayon that does not have paper on it, and I'm going to rub. Now you'll notice that I'm going to rub back and forth different directions, but it's important that you don't pick your white paper up, okay, because it's really hard to get it all lined back up once you pick it up. And there's my robot texture rubbing with one color. Okay, so the layers of cardboard help create the texture, help create those raised areas that were the crayon was able to create the image of. Now, you can also do it with two colors, and I'm going to show you that next. So I'm going to take a blank piece of paper, put it back on top of my robot. Now again, this is important that you don't pick this paper up in between this process. Leave the white paper on top until you're totally finished. All right, I'm going to take a new color and I'm going to, again, rub. Now, if you chose a light color like yellow, like I did here, you might notice it's kind of hard to see your image. So if that happens to you, just choose another color, a darker color, and go over it again. And notice I didn't lift up my white paper. It still stayed right in its place. Okay, now you'll notice that laying two colors kind of creates a different look. You can still see some parts that are just yellow, some parts that are just blue, and then there's parts where the colors mix together and create a green. And it creates a really interesting and unique type of artwork. So you can do either way, where you use one color or two colors. Both will work out very well for you. I hope you had a lot of fun creating this artwork, and I can't wait to see everyone's creations. Bye.